80s synth pop. It's coming for you.
Chatting Tracks. Let's talk music.
Hi, I'm Robbie. It's Chatting Tracks. Let's talk music. Let's talk music indeed. Welcome to today's episode. On this channel, I love discovering new artists and new bands. And I got reached out to by a record company a little while ago and said, we've got this great new artist. We'd love you to check him out. His name's Valley Lights, but his real name's Kai. And I said, what does he do? They said, like 80s synth pop. So they sent the album over. I played it. It's fantastic. He does an amazing cover of Dreams by Fleetwood Mac. And his new album, Two Lane Highways, just dropped. There's links in the description for both. It's so 80s, in fact, that you could bury it in the ground, get your mates over, dig it up, put it on the turntable, and they wouldn't know it wasn't the 80s. He's got an amazing way of keeping the old style, but making it contemporary and modern all at the same time. He writes all his own stuff, apart from the cover of Dreams, obviously, and he's just got that real flavour for the 80s. He's a fantastic guy, and I just had to have him on just to talk about his new album and the single Dreams. If you can, like and subscribe. If you've done it already, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it because it lets me talk about music all day long. And if you've got anybody you know that you think, actually, you know what, you should talk to Robbie, send them over to me and I'd love to have a chat with them. I love discovering new artists. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. He's fantastic, and I'll see you on the next one. Ta-da. Growing up as a kid, was your house quite musical? Was your parents into music? Is that where your influences come from?
No, I mean, I definitely got some. My dad, not so much. He was always pretty mellow. I know that he liked The Who a lot, but beyond that, I mean, Badfinger and actually, no, I guess I would credit my dad with turning me on to Fleetwood Mac, and I love them. And, you know, if you listen to that album, I did a cover of Dreams, and my mom was more so. She was a huge Doors fan, and I definitely credit the Doors as like a huge inspiration, and Jim Morrison. And so I definitely did pick up some from my parents, but they weren't, you know, they were not as openly passionate about music as like I am, for example. I feel like if I had a kid, I'd be like, all right, now we're listening to this. And do you know the story about this band and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I picked up a few things and definitely thankful for that, especially for the Doors. I mean, I love those guys.
I mean, a brilliant band. I mean, to this day, to me, underrated completely as well. I still don't think they get the credit they deserve.
No,
to me,
not.
I mean, to me, they were one of the first prog rock bands as well. The way they sort of take the keyboards off and do the leads and stuff like that. And to me, America created that. No, it wasn't the English bands; it was the US bands that did it.
Yeah, no, Manzarek was insane, and like I really feel like musically it was kind of like, obviously Jim was the poet and the singer, but I think musically, like Manzarek and the fact that he was a organ player really created that unique sound. And I got to see the Doors of the 21st century, like, God, it was probably 15, 20 years ago at this point. I don't know, but it was Ian Astbury from what is
the Cult.
From the Cult, yes. He was singing, and that was cool, but it was just so cool to see Robbie Krieger up there. You know, he's like 70 years old, and he's got his Gibson, and he's just up there shredding, and seeing Manzarek. Yeah, it was awesome.
Oh, I mean, they've been a favourite of mine since I was a kid. I just love the Doors. I mean, lyrically as well, when you look at the lyrics of Jim, it's just mind-blowing. The sort of, it's like a pre-runner to Morrissey from the Smiths, the way there was like two meanings to each lyric.
Yeah.
And you can take it each way. And the only thing that does annoy me, though, is they sort of look him as this rock god rather than this amazing poet.
Yeah. Well, no, I know that was always a constant gripe, is like he almost gets stripped of his artisticness and his creativity because he's just sort of like this stereotype of a rock sex god kind of guy, which, you know, I think is cool, but at the same time, I don't think he gets his artistic flowers the way some other people do.
Do you think the Doors would have worked if they were from New York?
No, absolutely not. I think that the Doors are just quintessential California, you know, Venice Beach. I mean, I think there could have been something like the Doors from New York, but no, that's one of the things I like about them, is they really represent the California sound. And, you know, it's not like the Beach Boys or something, like there's some darkness and some edge to it, but no, I really think it was that growing up in LA and Hollywood and Venice that really kind of turned them into what they are. I mean, LA Woman, the album, the song, like that is just so LA, and that's who the Doors were.
I mean, I'm just curious because obviously you're living in LA at the minute and your album's very LA sounding. So we'll talk about it in a second. But it's just like talking about the Doors and yourself, that you sort of said it's very LA. From an English person that's never been to LA, what is it about that area that makes it, like bands like the Doors and Love, have that sound? What do you think it is that like brings it? Is it the weather? Is it just the atmosphere?
It's everything. It's definitely the weather. I mean, that to have this it's literally a feeling of perpetual summer. Even in the winter time, like the worst weather LA gets is like wind, you know? It's the weather, it's the palm trees, it's Sunset Boulevard, it's Hollywood Boulevard. And, you know, it has a vibe to it. And I think, you know, there is a stereotype about LA, and there are some negative things about LA, about how everybody's just sort of like vapid or sycophantic or whatever. But the reality is it does have a very artistic spirit. And if you go there and you're just open to creating, whether it's music or art or theater or whatever, it is a place where you're going to feel inspired, and you're going to meet like-minded individuals. You're going to meet people. It's a city where people are searching, right? They're searching for, you know, pieces of themselves. And it's a place where you will find and connect with, in the millions of people that are there, you will find kindred spirits. And for me personally, I'm a water person, and the beach has always been a huge source of inspiration. And yeah, Venice Beach, Santa Monica, two of my favorite places to go. And I don't know, like, it just kind of feels like you're in a movie sometimes when you're in LA. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some problems, and it's not really fun being stuck in traffic all the time. But if you're open to the creativity that it offers, like you can definitely be a conduit for it.
I mean, to me, LA had two renaissances. You had the 60s and then you had the 80s. Pretty much.
Yeah.
You had this big gap in the 70s, but you had the 80s as well, because you had obviously all the people that are transients moving through and the musicians. Then you had all the clubs like the Roxy, the Troubadour, and which is a place I'm desperate to go to, the Troubadour, and the London Fog and all these places. The state of LA now, do you think there could be another one of those sorts of periods where you got the right clubs and the right people and the right bands?
I think that you know, the soil of LA will always be fertile to another movement. It does feel like, you know, it does feel like a little bit stagnant in some ways because it already did have those two huge eras. Like, you know, you had the Doors playing the Whiskey A Go-Go, and it's still there. And then, you know, you had the hair metal scene and the Sunset Strip and all of that stuff. And I think there will always be an opportunity for that. But it's just kind of like these things come in waves. So who knows? I mean, to be honest with you, one of the things, I'm relatively new to the kind of synthwave scene, but I started an Instagram chat group and just kind of, I did my best to connect all of the similar artists and synthwave people in LA, because I was like, you know what? Like, this doesn't have to be individualistic. Like, let's put LA on the map, you know, and like, not to talk shit, but it's like, you know, the Brits have been holding this stuff down for a long time. Like, let's put LA on the map, you know, just to be like, cause I do think about that, you know, I think about all the classic rock bands and, you know, all of those British bands were awesome. And then you have the Doors, who was like, hey, like, we're here too, and we're putting an American spin on it. And I kind of like that, you know, we're not taking away anything from the other countries or cultures that are doing this style of music. We're just kind of creating this big pot, this big mixing pot. And it's sort of like, this is how we do it, and that's how you do it. And it's all love and it's all fun.
That's it, right? Yeah, you invent it, we repackage it and sell it back. that's pretty much what happened.
Yeah, there you go.
What record or single record would you say really made you turn your head and sort of go, right, I want to be a musician, this is what I want to do? Or was there a live performance you saw that made you want to go, that's what I want to do?
I would probably have to go with, I think, Alice in Chains, Them Bones. I mean, I was a big rock metal guy, and I think I kind of started out listening to hip hop, and I still love hip hop and rap music, but Alice in Chains was the first band that I listened to where I just like fell in love with everything about them. Like Lane Staley, their singer, he was basically like my hero in middle school and high school. And then when he passed away in the early 2000s, I was just like crushed. And that was the first band where I don't know, I just fell in love with everything, because they were a band that were not afraid to kind of talk about their issues and darker things. And that was appealing to me as a poet, as an artist, to just not be afraid to put that in front of other people. And I think that's very empowering. And it was very inspiring, their heaviness, their rawness, their darkness, but then they also have these beautiful acoustic numbers like Nutshell and Brother, and they were just a really multifaceted band. And I think that kind of opened my eyes to how you can be a musician and an artist and still be true to yourself. Even in the public eye, you can still be genuine to yourself and still give the people what they want.
I think their Unplugged album is the best one ever that came out of that series.
Oh yeah, man. That Unplugged album is just, I knew people who didn't even like Alice in Chains, but they would listen to that Unplugged album because it's so amazing and it's so powerful. And I agree with you. I mean, I think that is definitely the best MTV Unplugged album there is.
For people that have not heard it, they need to find it on YouTube, because I think the whole thing is on there somewhere. And it's just got this beautiful darkness over the whole thing, hasn't it? It's really kind of it's not depressing, is it? It's kind of just this weird sort of gloom that hangs over it in a wonderful way. You're just drawn into it the minute it starts. Yeah,
and I mean the set piece is so cool, because it's just simple, but then they have these candles everywhere, and that totally lends itself to this atmosphere describing. And the sad thing is, if you know anything of what was going on with the band behind the time, you can sort of understand that. I mean, Lane Staley was dealing with this tremendous heroin addiction, and I think they might have done that, and then I think they did 2 shows opening for Kiss or something, but that was pretty much the end, and you can kind of feel that in that live performance.
I've had chats with my mates when you argue about what's the best Unplugged one, and it's always that's the one I argue. That's my go-to, because it's so good. Yeah. It's just so good. I think it's very easy for people to go with the Nirvana one, but for me, it's definitely Alice in Chains. I'm glad we're kindred spirits on that. That's amazing.
Definitely.
So when you sort of decided to become a musician, which instrument did you go first? Were you a piano person, a guitar person, a drums person?
Guitar. So here's the thing. I think I always knew that I wanted to be a vocalist, which is what I consider myself now, like a singer, songwriter, vocalist. But I was too timid. I was too afraid. So I was like, well, I'll play guitar, because guitar is cool too. And definitely as a singer songwriter, you want to have that instrument that you can write material on. And so I'm really glad that I did get some guitar chops. I'm not like insane or anything, but I can make my way around the instrument. So I gravitated towards that. But again, I think it's because I was at the time, when I was in middle school and high school, I was just a little bit too timid to be a singer and to be out front, and I wasn't confident in my voice. And so I sort of picked up guitar as a consolation prize. And then I started writing songs and doing my own material. and working towards becoming a vocalist. And now I feel very happy. I feel very happy that I finally was able to just take the leap and be like, yeah, I'm a singer, and that's what I like to do.
That's amazing. Did you play in bands before you became a solo artist, or?
Yeah, definitely. High school cover bands, punk bands, college, I played in like metal and rock, and then I was even in like a rap group for a while with my brother and our friend from when we were little kids. And then I put out like, this was more solo, but I put out kind of like an acoustic rock album back in like 2014. But yeah, just kind of like all over the place. I was always really into the rock band aesthetic and the metal aesthetic. And I mean, even with choosing the name Valley Lights, it's like, I like the idea of having a band name rather than like just slapping my name on it. I just think that it's another kind of piece of the puzzle you can put in there. And so that's why I chose, a project name, which is Valley Lights.
Between the band and becoming Valley Lights, was there a huge gap? Did you stay with music, or did you sort of go away for a bit and then come back?
No, I did have a huge gap. I put out that album, the acoustic album, in 2014, 2015. And then I was in San Francisco. I was like pushing the album. I was playing open mics and stuff. And then I moved to LA, and my goal was to keep doing it. But for whatever reason, I just kind of fell into this depression, and I basically stopped doing anything artistic for quite a long time. And it was really weird, man. Like COVID hit, and I ended up moving back to New Mexico for a while. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, I was dating this chick, and we went through this like horrible breakup. And afterwards, I don't know, man, I've never felt something. It felt like a compulsion. It felt like a calling. Like I started getting song titles in my head, lyrics in my head. And I had been listening to synthwave, kind of, not like crazy, but it had sort of come into my sphere, and I just like knew that I had to do this. And I knew that if I didn't make this album, like I was going to be denying myself, and I knew that I'd be like missing something for the rest of my life. And so after going through this experience with my ex-girlfriend, and, hemming and hawing, oh, I can't do it, I don't know how to do it, blah, blah, blah. I just said, fuck it, and as soon as I started down that road, it was just crazy, man. It felt like this faucet opened, and it was just really healthy for me, because after going through this several year period of not doing music, to feel the creativity inside of myself and to feel the music again was just really, I don't know, it was a godsend, man. Like, putting out this album has just been the most rewarding thing that I think I've ever felt in my whole life. And, it really was very cathartic for me in a lot of ways. And so it was just a beautiful thing. And I'm really happy that I trusted myself enough to do it, and to just say, like, you can either keep living in this miserable life that you've been existing in, or you can like be true to yourself for once and just push through it. And yeah, I think doing this album really saved me in a lot of ways. And it's, I don't know, it's just a great path. And I'm so happy that I found my way back to music.
I mean, for people listening, it's called 2 Lane Highway, and it's a fantastic album. It really is. It's literally the sort of stuff I love.
Thank
like
you.
You're saying, no, you're welcome. Like you're saying, it's a synthwave album. When you sort of thought of synthwave, did you think it was something you could make, or were you just sort of like, I like the style, but I don't know how to do it?
So basically, I think it's kind of like two things. The first thing was, I love the sound. I feel like I had been kind of waiting for synthwave my whole life, because what I love about it is that, you know, you have subgenres, you know, you have like dark synth and outrun, and I think that stuff's cool, but I kind of like the poppier stuff because it doesn't take itself too seriously, you know, like saxophone and electric guitar solos, and then the just like ridiculous synths and the drums, you know, all of that stuff. And because I was like, this is like me, like I don't take myself too seriously, but it also allows, synthwave is also a great way to, you can express these very true, you can be true to yourself, but you can have fun with it. And so that's kind of what I did with the album, was I'm touching on a lot of very painful stuff that happened to myself, but I kind of was like, I want to do this in a lighthearted way. Like, I don't want to be angry about this stuff. I don't want to dwell on it, but I do need to address it. But then at the same time, to kind of talk about the other part of your question, when I decided to do the album, I was very much like, no, like I am not this good of a producer, like absolutely not. And that was what hindered me to start, because I was like, I don't know how to do this. I can write the lyrics and I can write the vocals and stuff, but I'm not this good of a producer, and it's very stylized. And I just kind of had this epiphany where I was just like, what if I didn't have to? What if I didn't have to be responsible for producing it? And I ended up finding a handful of producers, primarily two, and, you know, we started working together, and, you know, they're basically hired guns. Like they were very cool and friendly, and we talk and stuff, but I was basically the mastermind behind it. But I was able to use their skill sets, and like I would send them reference tracks, or I would send them kind of like demos or whatever of what I had done. And it was like I said, man, like the faucet turned. Like once I got those tracks back and how I wanted them, I just wrote, and I would drive around in my car and just sing and think of lyrics. And for me, it was a great situation, because I have always looked at bands like, what's a good example? Like there's this band Fisher Spooner from like the early 2000s. And it was like one guy is the lyrics and the singer guy, and then there's like one guy is the instrumentalist musician guy. And that has always been my ideal writing situation, where I have a writing partner and they're really good at producing and the kind of nitty gritty technical stuff. And then I can focus on what I like to do, which is the lyrics and the songwriting and the storytelling component. And I haven't been able to find that person yet, but in a way I was kind of able to find that person through the internet. And, and yeah, it was an amazing process. And, I'm really glad I found these guys, because without them, I don't know what it would have been like. And for me personally, as an artist, sometimes it's difficult to give up control. Like you want to be in control of everything. And I was just like, you know what? It's fine. I want to do this. And even if I'm not making the music, it doesn't diminish my artistic ability any at all. And once I started doing it that way, in this sort of like collaborative way, it just worked like magic.
People say to me, like, why do I like sort of 80s sounds and synthwave sounds and all the other ones? And I said, it's its own universe of sound. There's nothing on earth that sounds like those synthesizers and that period, because even rock bands just put distortion, but it's still a guitar. Whereas when you get like a synth band and you've got like the DX7, the Juno 60s, all those classic keyboards that make those big symphonic sounds, you just can't get those sounds anywhere. And they do sound like they're from another planet.
Yeah, completely. I mean, one of the things, like I said, I fell in love with this soundscape of synthwave, because when I listen to it, I feel like I'm in another dimension. There's just something about the sounds that are used, the combination of the synthesizers and everything. Like, that's what I love about it. Like, it's not like other music, right? Like I feel like I'm somewhere else when I listen to it. And that's what I think is so magical about it. It just, to me, I don't think I've listened to another style of music that has affected me in the same way, where I feel like I'm in another dimension or a movie or another place in time. Like it has all of these very like wistful, magical components to it.
It's wonderful, isn't it? When you were compiling your album together, did you have all the songs ready, or did you have to write for the album?
I had several. Originally, I was going to do a 10-song album because my birthday is October 13th. So I was like, it's either going to be 10 or it's going to be 13. And I had many of the ideas ready to go, but then it was this process of, as I'm recording, I'm writing new songs, and like Headlights and Two Lane Highway were the first two songs I wrote and recorded. And then I did the cover of Dreams. And then all this time I have these other ideas floating around. And so as I'm sort of nailing one song, I'm getting into another one. So after that, it was like Chasing Ghosts. And then the last two songs of the first batch I wrote were California and Forever and Always. And then I hit 10 and I was just like, fuck it, let's keep going. Like I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the spirit. And 13 is my lucky number. So the last three were Holding On, Under the Gun, and what's the last one? I can't remember. But I did have this funny moment though, man, because I wrote the first 10 and then I got one of the instrumentals back, and I think it was Holding On. And, you know, like as an artist, you kind of subject yourself to all of this mental acrobatic stuff. And so I got the instrumental and I was just like, maybe that's it. Maybe that's all I got. I can't, you know, and I was just like, you know, just like intimidating myself. And then of course, after I sat down and just worked with it for a while, like it came out and I got something. But it's just so funny. Like I was like, why am I doing this to myself? But yeah, it was a great process, and I was very happy with all the songs that came out of it.
It's interesting that you talk about Dreams in there by Fleetwood Mac originally. Like when you get a cover of a song, what I love about what you did with it is you did definitely make it your own. And sometimes you get covers and they just copy it note for note, but you've done a synthwave version, which is fantastic. What drew you to that song?
Dreams has always been one of my favorite Fleetwood Mac songs. I mean, that whole Rumors album is just like insane. It's all classic. But Dreams, I just kind of always loved this sort of melancholy, sort of longing quality to it. And so on top of that, you know, I told you about this ex-girlfriend of mine. We used to sing that in karaoke together, and it was just kind of like perfect because it's basically like a breakup song. You know, Stevie Nicks wrote Dreams, and then Lindsey Buckingham wrote Go Your Own Way when they were going through all their drama. And I just thought it would be, you know, really fitting for me to do that as kind of a way of like letting go and to just put my own spin on it. And yeah, I really like doing covers. To me, a cover makes sense if you genre bend it a little bit. Like there are definitely some synthwave artists and they cover like 80s songs. And for me, that doesn't make sense because it's sort of like we already exist in that realm sonically a bit. So that's not something I would do personally. And I'm not to say it couldn't be done well, but I was like, why not do something like Dreams, which is kind of like guitar, you know, it's your classic drums, bass, guitar situation, and do something a little bit weirder with it.
I love it. I think if Fleetwood Mac had done it in the 80s, they would have done it how you did it.
Yeah.
I think it would have been exactly how you did it. It's a fantastic cover. We'll put a link to that in the description. What I love as well is you've got little cheeky bits on your album as well, like Chasing Ghosts. You've got the bit of Batman in there as well. And as soon as, I mean, that's one of my favorite films of all time. But as soon as I heard it, I was like, I like that.
Yeah, I had just ran. I mean, I love that movie. Jack Nicholson Michael Keaton is great too. But yeah, I had just watched that movie. And I always loved that. You Ever Dance with the Devil in the Pale Moonlight. And so when I was writing Chasing Ghosts, I was thinking of that pale moonlight, and so I have the line in there, I'll drive all night through the pale moonlight. And then I was like, man, I should just throw that sample in there. That's just too good to pass up.
Did you have to clear that with anybody, or were they fine with it?
I believe we did have to clear it. Stu at Outland took care of that. Thank you, Stu, because there are 2 samples on the album, and then there was one sample we weren't able to clear, but those 2, because they're short enough, and so I think that kind of simplifies things a bit. But yeah, we did have to clear those.
What I love about your album is it's synthwave, but it moves as it goes along. Like in Valley Romance, you've got real sort of 80s funk element to it, and it's got that sort of early cameo sort of sound. Did you want to change the album as it was going? Was you aware that it could get too synth heavy and you need to funk it up a little bit, or was it?
So for me, 80s funk in particular, man, like the Gap Band, I've always loved that stuff. And then sort of like the more modern iteration, kind of like Daft Punk type stuff. But no, when I was writing the album, I wanted it to be rooted in synthwave, but I was not concerned with staying there. So there are, Valley Romance is a great example because it has that funk component. And I basically had written most of the album, and I was like, there is a melancholic tinge to a lot of the songs. And I was like, I just want something that's like danceable and fun. And it's just going to be like, just like out on the boulevard, having a good time. And I was like, I need something funky. And so that's how Valley Romance came along. And then, there's other stuff like California and 2-Lane Highway are some of my favorites because as a rock guy, they have that driving guitar component. And, there are electric guitar solos throughout the album. And then, I consider there to be more traditional synthwave, like Headlights, I think. And then I think there's kind of like more just like pop stuff, like Bonfire, I consider to be kind of like pop ballad-esque. And I mean, that's what I like about the album. I think it has a lot of variety, but as a whole, it is still very cohesive. And I think that it does live in that world of synthwave, but it also pushes the boundaries a little bit.
It's great. I love Forever and Always as well. To me, that's the love song on the album. That's the one that's your ballad on there. When you was writing that one, was you sort of, was it sort of an idea just to write a ballad on there? Or was you thinking about something in particular that you wanted to write about?
I had reached this point, and that to me, Forever and Always is the most significant song on the album. I think, my favorites are probably Headlights and 2-Lane Highway, because they were the first ones I wrote and sort of were the genesis of the project. But for me, Forever and Always is the most significant because I wasn't thinking about I want or need to write a ballad. It happened very naturally because that song to me was, whether it's a lover or a friend or anybody, people come into our lives and I basically say, you'll be with me forever and always, and I'll be with you forever and always. And it's this idea of people come into our lives and we may not even realize it at the time, but they sort of touch us and, butterfly effect, right? Like, had this experience not happened, I could be in a totally different place. And as painful as this situation I went through with my ex-girlfriend was, like, I reached a point where I was like, I am ultimately thankful and grateful for this experience because it returned me to music. And music, it has always been a great powerful force in my life, and I lost it. And so even through all the pain and stuff, I'm just like, thank you. Like, thank you for touching my life, because, you know, I'm in a place now where I'm happier than I had been in a long time, because I'm doing what I want to do again. And so that's the idea of forever and always. It's like, hey, like whatever happened, like you're always here in my heart, and you changed my life for the better through tremendous pain. Like I came out on the other side where I want to be. And I'm just thankful for that.
Yeah, again, it goes back to Rumours by Fleetwood Mac. It's the same thing, isn't it? Yeah, all that chaos and heartbreak brings the world's greatest album.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't easy, but once I reached a point where I was able to kind of channel the artistic energy into catharsis and creation, it felt so good.
It's a wonderful album. If you could collaborate with someone from the 80s, like say you could just pick anyone to collaborate with using your style of music, with them singing vocals, who would you pick? Is there anyone you've ever sort of mentally said, oh, if I can ever get that person, I'll have them?
Let me think about that for a second. I mean, there's so many. I want to say, I don't know, like I love New Order and The Cure, but like as far as vocalists, I'm kind of like, I think knee-jerk reaction, I want to say Sebastian Bach from Skid Row, because I don't know, man. Have you heard 18 in Life? Like, yeah. I've seen him perform now, and he's still got his chops, but like young Sebastian Bach, like he could just nail those high notes, and he had some grit on his voice, and yeah, just awesome. And again, like I love rock and metal, and definitely the 80s hair metal scene has a special place in my heart. So yeah, I think I'd probably go with Sebastian Bach.
That's a great choice. You know what? I should have opened it up and said anyone, and then you could have had Jim Morrison, to be fair. I should have done that.
Yeah. Morrison, that would be sick. Trying to think.
Janis Joplin would have been good.
Yeah. Yeah, she's great. I don't know, man. Like Danzig.
It's got real rock now. I
have a hard time imagining Danzig getting on a synthwave track.
So, what's next for yourself? Are you working on your next album? Are you touring?
No touring at the moment. I've been writing the second album. So that's coming along. And again, I want to start doing some live shows. Like I said, I did some networking with the LA people, and there's a group of guys who have a promotion company called Synth Cartel, and they kind of shut down during COVID, obviously. But they want to start doing more shows, so I'm talking to them, and yeah, I don't know. That's it. I want to start doing live stuff. I need to polish up a few tracks so I can drop some singles coming up. Speaking of Dreams, we do have the music video for that shot, and I'm hoping for an early November release for that video, and that's going to be sick. I work with some really cool people on that. Really creative couple. It's a husband and wife couple, and they're both filmmakers, directors, and yeah, we shot it all on camcorders and like VHS tapes. So it's like awesome. It's not in like 40K or whatever. It's very dope. There's a couple teasers on my Instagram right now, but I'm really excited to see how that turns out. And yeah, outside of that, it's really just keeping the ball moving, whether I'm writing, recording, rehearsing. I just want to make sure that now that the project is out, I don't lose sight of the future, because it was crazy, man. 2-Lane Highway took up like a year and a half of my life, and it was just writing, recording, and I didn't have the record label or anything. And then I started my social media, and it is just kind of crazy that, you know, the CDs are going out now. You know, I'm here at my dad's house right now, and he just got his copy of Two Lane Highway, and it's just so trippy, man. Cause like I thought of that cover image. I had a really cool guy named Rakid Lop do the artwork, but it's just kind of weird to be like, yeah, it was in here and now it's right here in my hand. And it's very cool, but at the same time, it's like, okay, like I'm going to keep pushing it, but that chapter is kind of closed in a lot of ways. And now it's like, what's next? What are we doing next? And staying motivated to just keep doing everything and keep pushing.
Is your, at the minute, I know you're in the writing phase here, is your second album a different style? Is it the same sort of thing? Have you noticed you're writing differently?
I have noticed a difference. I think that it's kind of like straying even further from traditional synthwave, which I think is fine, but it's certainly like, there's a question that pops up into my head. It's like, you know, you can't alienate your fan base. But at the same time, I'm like, you know, like, I can't just be like, okay, no, this doesn't sound synthwavy enough, so like, let's do that. I'm trying not to think about it too much, and I'm just trying to stay inspired and just kind of like trust the process. But so far, the songs that I've been writing and kind of working with, I feel like are a little less traditional synthwave. But I think that in the end, it is going to come out as a cohesive project, just like Two Lane Highway did. I mean, my brother, when he heard Valley Romance for the first time, he was like, you know, just hear me out here. Maybe it's too funky. And I was like, no, it's fine. It fits perfectly. And then he just got the album and listened to it in its entirety. And he was like, yeah, I thought Valley Romance wasn't going to fit, but you know, when you reach it, you know, it's track 10 or whatever on the album, like it works great. And I'm like, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Like, that's how I felt the whole time.
I'm definitely looking forward to the next album. If people want to find out about you, where's the best place for them to go?
I'm everywhere on social media, but I'm most active on Instagram. That's where I would recommend people get in touch with me. Obviously, follow on Spotify or whatever music service you're listening on, Apple Music. And then, yeah, Bandcamp. We did an initial pressing of 50 CDs and 50 tapes, and we've sold about half the units of those already, which is awesome. But if you want to get a CD or tape, hop onto Bandcamp. And also that really supports me as an artist and Outland Recordings as well, because Bandcamp is just great at getting money to artists and the people who work on it. But yeah, Instagram, if you actually want to get in touch with me, I recommend Instagram, and then support through Spotify, Bandcamp, and all the other great places to listen to music.
Hopefully you'll come and tour in England. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for chatting with me today. It's been brilliant.
Yeah, Robbie, no, thank you, man. It's been a pleasure to be here, and happy to be back anytime and support your work, man. It's been really great. Thank you.